In Project 3, we're going to take a look at how we can add chart labels, such as our titles and our X and Y axis chart titles. We'll also add shapes and then move, size, and delete those labels and shapes. So we've got a variety of things here that we can do to further describe a chart once we have it created. I've opened the population comp workbook and have named it already as they've described in Project 3A. And we're going to start by charting the information in this worksheet. We're going to create a bar chart because it allows us to compare populations between these cities for the various years. Now honestly, when we get all done, they're going to have a switch from a bar chart to a line chart because a line chart does allow us to compare data over time, which is what we have here. So we're going to start out with a bar chart and then they'll have us change it to a line chart. But first step in all of this is to select the data that you want to include in your chart, and in this case we're going to select A2 through H4. And again, back to the Insert tab. In the Charts group, they're going to have a Select Bar Chart. And, bar chart. And then Cylinder, Horizontal, Clustered, Horizontal Center, Cylinder. So select that. That displays it as such, but then they're going to have us change it. So it's just a little exercise in changing chart types. So again, up on the ribbon, in your Type group, we're going to use Change Chart Type. We are going to go to the Line category, and the type of chart that we want is Line with Markers. So I'm going to click on that, make sure it's selected, and click OK. And this again will show us, you can't see it very well, but how the population changes over time. Alright, we're also going to apply a different style to it. They want us to apply Style 18. Again, this is Review. If you go up to your ribbon in the Chart Styles group, I'm going to click on the More button to expand the gallery, and we want 18, Style 18. So I'm going to click on that. That gives us a slightly different look to the chart. We want to change the layout of the chart by moving the legend. They want the legend to appear at the bottom. So to do that, we're going to go to the Layout tab, the Chart Tools Layout tab, and in the Labels group, we're going to click on Legend. And it's currently set to show at the right, but we want to show it at the bottom. So we're going to show legend at bottom. Notice it moves the legend to the bottom of the chart. We also want to add a chart title to the top of the chart. So again, in the Labels group, you'll see a Chart Title button, and we want it to appear above the chart. So again, placeholder appears. The placeholder's already selected, so if we type in population comparison, notice as I type it in, it should appear, population should appear in the formula bar, but it doesn't appear in the placeholder just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and type in population comparison, and I'm going to press enter. As soon as I press enter, for whatever reason there's an additional name in there, I'm just going to delete that out. You won't always have that. I've found that this particular example is a little bit different, but typically when you type in the title, it'll replace whatever's in there, and then just press enter and it will place it in from the formula bar into your placeholder. Alright, we're also going to add X and Y axis titles. We're going to add the X axis title first, and again in the Chart Tools Layout tab, in the Axis group, we're going to go to the Axis button. First one we're going to put in is the primary horizontal axis, and they want this one to be displayed, looks like title below the axis. So if I can find that, horizontal, okay, so that should be to the left. That is not right. Let me look at this again. Oh, I'm so sorry. The labels. We want labels, not in the axis group, but the labels group. Axis title, still primary horizontal axis title, and then title below axis. And that will put it below this horizontal axis. We have an axis title here. I'm going to go ahead and type in decades. Notice that it's typing it in the formula bar. I'm going to press enter. That replaces the default name for the placeholder, which will be decades. We're going to do the same thing for the vertical or the y-axis. Again, in the labels group, under axis title, we go to primary vertical axis title, and there's a variety of ways that you can display that, but we want to put in the rotated title. Again, it appears with a placeholder. The title is going to be total population. As soon as I press enter, it places it in the placeholder. In addition, we're going to add grid lines to kind of draw attention to these markers within the chart. And there's a variety of ways that you can use grid lines, but they want vertical grid lines to be added. So again, up on your ribbon in the axis group, you'll see grid lines, and we want to go to the primary vertical grid lines, and then we're going to put both major and minor grid lines in our chart. And if you'll notice, you have bold vertical lines here and also dimmed ones, and you should be able to see the different categories. Between 1970, the lighter gray actually points to the markers for each one of the years, which makes it a little bit easier to view, and hopefully the user can understand where the years are a little bit better. Okay. In addition to charting, now I know if you leave this chart in the same sheet, a user will be able to see the data upon which the chart was built. However, there is another option where you can show the data table within the chart. And to do that, we're going to go to the labels group again and the data table option, and we're going to choose the show data, just simply show data table. And notice how that puts it in at the bottom of each of the years, and it tells you what these numbers are representing at the bottom, which is kind of cool. Now notice when you do that too, the title kind of gets off-centered, but you could move that wherever you wanted. Okay, and it may be almost too far away now to describe the years, and it may be necessary to delete that. In fact, they do have you deleting that in item 15 at the bottom of page 54. So I'll go ahead and do that, just delete that out. And then in addition to adding the data table, we can also add drop lines, which I think will make it a little bit more clear for analysis in the chart. So to add the drop lines, again, let's see, we want the analysis group. So Chart Tools, Layout tab, Analysis Group, and then you'll find Lines and Drop Lines. Now notice that gives you some pretty heavy lines that point down to the years, which again makes it even clearer as to where those squares and circles are representing. Okay. All right, continuing on, we are going to further describe some information in the chart by including shapes, and we'll also, once we get shapes in there, we'll format those shapes on the chart. And if you'll go to page 257, the figure 7.8 at the top shows you the shape that we're going to be adding, and it's going to point out the population for 1960, it looks like. And it's actually taking the difference between the population for Seattle and Portland. And evidently that's the largest difference between those two cities throughout the decades. So we're going to bring attention to that. I'm going to make this chart just a little bit bigger so we have some room to put that shape in for 1960. So to insert a shape, we're going to go into the, again, Chart Tools Layout tab, and in the Insert group you should see Shapes. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see all these, but there's several different items here. But we want to go to the Block Arrows section, and then the type of shape that we're going to use is called Up Arrow Callout. Up Arrow Callout. So I'm going to click on that to turn it on. And then notice you've got crosshairs for your mouse, and I'm just going to draw the shape as close as I can to where I want it. Once you've drawn it, you can move it. Okay, so if you don't get it in the right spot, that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to draw the shape, and then they're going to apply a shape style to that. So if you keep the shape selected. Notice now Drawing Tools Format tab is selected. These are all the buttons that apply to this shape. If I click off the shape, then it goes back to the chart. Then anything that you're doing as far as formatting the chart will be found on these tabs. But I want to make some changes to the shape itself, so that changes. We're going to go to the Format ribbon of that, and you'll see the Shape Styles group. And in that group, we want to go to the Gallery. I'm going to click on the More button to get to that. And we want to change the style to Settle Effect Blue Accent 1. Settle Effect Blue Accent 1. I'll click on that. That makes it a little bit lighter in color. And then we're going to type in the text there, largest disparity. And I'm going to press Enter. We'll resize that in just a minute, so hang tight. I didn't need an enter there, but we do need, okay. And then I'm going to widen this shape just a little bit so I can get all the information. And I need a space in there. So I can get all the information in the shape. So you may have to resize it depending on how big you created it originally. However, if you can't make the shape bigger because it starts being the focal point of your chart, which you don't want, then they're going to have you're going to have to do this on your own to make this judgment. You can resize the font, and in addition to resizing the font, they also want you to center and bold the text. So to do that, we're going to go back to the Home tab. Excuse me. Excuse me. They want to center the text. Notice how that centers it. They want it bolded. And they want to decrease the font size to 9. And by doing that, then you can reshape and maybe make the shape a little bit smaller so it's not the focal point. You just want it to add to your chart, not make it the main thing. Trying to get that right on the line there. Okay, that's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad either. So, okay, so that's inserting a shape, adding text to it, and then making changes as far as the style of the text inside the shape. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do to this chart is we're going to insert the company logo up here in the upper right hand corner. And the company logo, the picture of it, has been provided for us, and it's actually located in the Chapter 7 folder. So to get to that, we're going to go to the Chart Tools Layout tab. Again, in the Insert group, this time we're going to go to Pictures. And I'm going to move to my flash drive into 218. I'm going to change the view of this so we can get to a little bit quicker. Student Data Files, Chapter 7. And WE Logo is what we're looking for. So I'm going to double click on that. That places the logo pretty largely in our chart, so we need to resize that. I'm going to use the sizing handle lower right hand corner. Click and drag that up so that it's positioned in the upper left hand corner. May need to make my chart a little bit wider, but you can resize that so that it's in the upper right hand corner, positioned hopefully as such. And again, that's pretty easy as long as you know where to find it. So we've added a picture, we've added a shape, we've added some labels, we've added drop lines, grid lines, we've added a data table to our chart.